All right, welcome back to the channel. Today, well, let me give you a little backstory here. I was at a car meet a couple weeks ago and I bumped into this gentleman here with what I thought was a Miata until I heard it start up, and I wasn't able to catch him at the time, and I heard the rotary sound. I was like, a Miata with a rotary. So a week later, I ended up meeting Ben here, and Ben is the owner of this 1990 Mazda MX5 rotary swap Miata. Ben, take it over. Tell me more about your vehicle, please.
Well, it all started when I was talking to my grandfather one day, my late great-grandfather who sadly passed away, and he had a BMW K75 motorcycle on his back porch for about 8 years without it moving. He used to ride it, didn't ride it more. I said, have you made any progress on the bike? He said, you want it? Well, I said, well, of course. I'm not going to turn down a free BMW. I've never wanted a motorcycle before, don't know how to ride a motorcycle, but I'll have it. And so we went to Austin and we got it, and then COVID hit. And I was stuck at home each and every day with my stepdad, who did used to ride motorcycles, and he fell deeply in love with the bike, and we would work on it together, but he would get up every morning and go and work on it. And then one day, the worst thing in the world happened. My mom heard it start. We started it up and it actually was running, and something clicked in her brain, and she was like, oh my God, my baby! And so I come home one day and they've staged an intervention. They're sitting around, they say, well, we think that needs to be Jason's bike, my stepfather. And I say, well, hold on. I'm not just gonna go from getting a free BMW to getting nothing. You have to let me bring a car home. And so it led ultimately to this here. I had wanted an RX-7, but I liked Miatas too. My mom used to have a classic red 92 Miata, which she had to sell when she became pregnant with me.
Oh, wow. So this probably has a deeper story.
Oh, there's all sorts of legacy in this car. You don't understand. And I was born to street race. My father was one of the greatest street racers to ever grace the state of Texas.
Oh, really? What?
Famous for outrunning the cops in his Ford Escort.
A Ford Escort?
Oh, yeah. He used to have a great Stang, too.
Okay.
He could beat them all. In fact, I may have been conceived in the back of a Ford Taurus SHO, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, that's another story.
This here, I don't know if it's in the light.
I got it.
Is the 12A rotary engine out of a very first year 79 RX-7. You don't see a lot of the 12As anymore. These were quickly supplanted by the 13Bs on the later RX-7s. But these had run in all of their rotary cars through the 70s and up through 85 in the RX-7. Now, an interesting thing about the actual specific build of this one is that I swapped the Nicky carburetor for a Weber DCOE 42 carburetor. Now that is off of Maserati 3500 GT. The Webers are a pretty classic swap for these, but I'm not sure how this guy came to be in possession of the 42. I bought it off a fellow I met on Discord. But you can see right here, something kind of interesting, is he's drilled 2 holes right here and right here. These 2 screws don't belong, and those are where he had originally run oil metering pump lines. These engines are essentially like 2-strokes, and they will actually inject engine oil into your fuel mix to try to pre-mix the gas as you're driving. Now, I've gotten rid of all that. Your rotary enthusiasts today are going to get rid of the oil metering pump, and they'll pre-mix the gas when they're fueling. And that's what you should do. It's really much better. But when we got this car, it was in terrible condition, and I must confess, most of the really visible outer work on it, the original 12A swap, the paint job, and a lot of the other things were done by a fellow that me and my stepdad nicknamed Captain Puerto Rico. He was the owner before the owner that I bought it from. And the only thing that I know about the gentleman is that he was a Puerto Rican fellow from the.
Well, Puerto Rico is known for having a lot of rotary enthusiasts.
So I have learned. But
they love the Dorito.
He did some very interesting work on this. He cut away the front subframe wherever it needed to just be chopped away, and he welded together some motor mounts and brackets to get it in there. This does actually run the RX-7 transmission. It's not on the Miata transmission. Has an SA 5-speed, which is kind of rare. The SAs actually have thicker gears with fewer teeth compared to the FBs. They're actually a bit stronger.
Yeah, I wanted you to show me that in a bit.
So the SA 5-speed is actually a great choice, but he did all sorts of crazy Inspector Gadget things on it, like this here. This red wire with a little electrical taped up housing, this ran to the positive starter terminal, and that is how it drew power. It runs to a switch on the dash. It's all gotten rid of now, but except the switch is still there. But that ran to a gigantic electric power steering pump. Now, if you're a Miata person, you know that the first mod every high schooler does to their Mazda Miata is to delete the power steering. whether that's a good idea or not. It's a very common thing to do. But instead, he decided that he had to have this crazy electric power steering pump, and the thing weighed 25 pounds, and it also made the car run bad. You would hit the switch and go from, no power steering, which is fine in a car this light, to no road feel, all power steering, and also the engine would barely run. It would click, because it's still running on the tiny little Miata electric battery, the like little motorcycle battery it had stock. I've since replaced that with a big old fat battery that powers the car better, and I've gotten rid of the electric power steering. Over here, he was talking. I wanted to show you the shifter arrangement. When I first took the center console out of this car and I pulled the carpets away, there was a little panel that said Pioneer. He had found a piece of metal off of an old bit of stereo equipment, maybe a tape deck or a receiver or something, and he had cut that panel out and used it to cover up the actual original shifter hole in the Miata, which is right down here. That's covered up. And the actual shifter is way up here under the radio. Because this is an SA, it's one of the first year RX-7s, something that I didn't know that nobody else had ever mentioned, is the SAs and FBs actually have slightly different transmissions in the gearing, and also in the fact that on the FB, the shift point would be right here, it would line up perfectly in a Miata. And on an SA, it's up here under the radio, and it has like a Hearst-style shifter, so it's up and then over and up again. So this actually kind of shifts up and down in addition to back and forward. Very unique setup, but we've cleaned that up underneath. It's a lot better than it was.
It looks almost stock, the way it situates. I know it's not supposed to be at that angle. Most Miatas are just vertical, but that's so cool about it that it's unique.
Well, something I really believe is that the Mazda Miata is a beautiful car right off the factory lot. You know, people love to do things to these cars. Anything they can do. Raise it, lower it, monster trucks, stance it. Got to have every Timu attachment that you can get on there, mess with the headlights, get the Jeep halos, and I think it's all very tacky. For me, this is a car best left unmolested. And that's why I try to keep the interior as stock as I can. I should put my rear carpet back in. It will go in, but I did the LRB aluminum panels just to replace the rusty ones under there.
Oh, that turned out really clean, though. I like it.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned to him before the video that I've actually used LRB products for my S14 Silvia, or my 240 conversion, and they make great stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Great guys. I'll probably put a link to their page on my on this video, actually, because I do support them for Nissan builds, but they support Mazda as well.
Well, the Mazda and the Nissan actually have kind of a long history as rivals.
Yes, they do.
Back in the day, the Mazda RX-7, the first generation, the FB cars, the SA cars were the rival to the 240Z. If you were looking at your import cars, duke it out. There's a great old Motor Trend article where they were going at it between the two of them. And actually, the reason I know so much about the Weber DCOE 42 is thanks to the Nissan community. Some guy put together a great long document that is really, really well put together for educating somebody about Weber DCOE carburetors.
Yeah.
All thanks to the Nissan community, because they're a common swap onto the Nissan.
And now that you said Nissan, there was that time period of 80s and 90s, the Datsun 240Z, but also the Porsche 924 was in the 70s as well. Had a similar pop-up headlights and slant nose that the 240Z did, and the RX-7s, the first-gen RX-7s. They all look very similar, like the Porsche in design.
Well, and Mazda would shamelessly ape Porsche for about 20 years, as far as their stock cars were concerned. They clearly loved Porsches.
Yeah.
And
you can see the influence.
Yes, the FB RX-7 looks quite a bit like a Porsche 924. The
or
FC
944,
RX-7,
yeah.
The FC RX-7, the one that came after it, looks really like
a 944 too. Yeah, exactly.
The only difference being that it's a better car than the 944.
And at half the price.
Yes, and half the price.
And here's a shameful thing is that, here's my plug, is I actually own a 924 turbo with a Carrera GT kit that I'm actually restoring. I put it in storage 18 years ago, and then I saw your car and I said, I can see the lines and resemblance in the 944s. Mm-hmm. You can see how the Japanese copied a lot of the German aesthetics.
Yes, they were. We have to think about it. They were sort of building a motor industry from scratch. They did not have the same sort of head start that we have in America and in Europe, especially post-war.
Yeah.
They're making a lot of things from a new line of thought. And that's why once they really start to mature and they get into their own, they start coming out with really unique, really engaging cars. And I think the Mazda Miata is a great example of that. This is the perfect image of the maturity of Japanese engineering. It's not overcomplicated, It isn't overdone. They figured out how to do everything right and sell it at an affordable price.
All right, can we hear what it sounds like?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's go ahead and start her up.
Now, I haven't got to tune this car yet. This engine's actually just recently been rebuilt by Maple Racing, James Belair out of Houston, Texas. One of the very few true rotary specialists left in the world that I think knows what he's talking about.
You can't mistake that lope.
No. This car still has a long way to go with tuning. We haven't done anything to tune this car yet. We bolted it all together and turned the key, and this is how it was running then. So this car has a lot of room for improvement. You'll notice it kind of cycles between two different idles. It has one where it does that, and if it does that for a minute, it'll do that. It goes bump 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 bada 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 bump 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 bada bada bada.
It's got a nice beat.
Yeah.
What's the gas mileage?
Terrible. It's so expensive to run this car.
I mean, it smells pretty rich. I can smell it. But then again, you don't have a cat either, so.
No, part of the reason the mileage is so bad is that it's running so incredibly rich at this moment. But it needs to through its break-in period because, since I said it's like a two-stroke and it's using pre-mixed gas, if you lean your fuel mixture, you're leaning your lubrication. And you are going to damage your engine.
Yeah, you'd rather it run rich than lean.
You'd much rather it run rich. You're safe doing it. Once it's through 400 miles and I can rev it past 4,000 without, being in violation of my warranty.
So you're still breaking it in. You got about another, 800 miles left, or?
No, it's only 400 miles to begin with. Let's see here. I've done 328. I'm actually pretty close. Yeah, I got like 70 miles.
And then you can go past 4,000.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Well, without any drama, yeah.
I'll tell you what, I mean, we can do this shoot today and do a night shoot tomorrow after you break it in and take it for a spirited drive.
Well, 70 miles is probably going to cost me 2 tanks of gas.
Oh.
So.
Oh, we'll wait. We'll take our time on that.
Yeah.
No, we may do a follow-up shoot after you break it in. I'm pretty sure people are going to want a part 2 of this series. I mean, just on another, I have a friend of mine coming from San Antonio bringing his MX5. He has I believe it's an MB, and it's modified already. He's probably going to show up later on this evening. I'll shoot his, and we'll come back on this. I don't mind shooting Mazda Rotaries or RX-7s or MX-5s. If they're modified, they have to be pretty unique. I don't like the plain Jane cookie cutter with an automatic. I prefer this. This is really cool.
This is a little bit unorthodox, a little outside the box, but when you think about it,
it makes sense, though.
It makes so much sense because the best part of the FBRX7 is the rotary engine. It's a good car in other respects. They're not bad automobiles, but they are somewhat dated. They're a little bit archaic in their suspension design, their brakes, their steering. The Mazda Miata is great in all the ways that it's modern. The double wishbone suspension, the rack and pinion steering, the limited slip differential. And when you combine these two, you get the best parts of both cars. You get the excellent engine and the excellent body, and they draw the best out of each other. And something else that I think is unique to the character of this car is that it pleases everybody.
It does.
And this is, in many ways, the modern realization of a classic 50s hot rod. Not an 80s hot rod aping a 50s hot rod. It's the sort of cars that were cheap then, that old men could get hold of when they were young, and fix up in the way that they could at the time. Not with the beautiful, deep, sparkly paint jobs, but with the paint jobs they could afford.
So it's kind of like the cycle repeats itself. What was really cool in the late 50s with the horse spiders and James Dean getting into automotive enthusiasm, it's a cyclical thing. Now people are getting into these really cool first generation Miatas and modifying them, making their own. It's like what I'm doing with my Datsun fetish,
Because these are the cars that people can afford now. All of those original hot rod cars are now very expensive because they're very speculative.
It's like 240s right now. The S14s or S30 is so expensive now, so people are going to the what's the new hot car 350Z?
Yeah,
the 350Z is the new 240.
People do what they can with what they can get hold of. But at the same time, and while it pleases the old men because it is carbureted, it is in many ways a classic. It's also sort of a JDM Initial D drift car. It captures that audience too.
So now that you touched on that subject, is there a chance in the future you may go to a newer rotary style in the future, possibly?
I don't think so. Now, I could, given the right opportunity. I'll tell you this much. If this engine blew, I would. In fact, I would put a Renesas out of an RX-8 probably in here.
Really?
Yeah, because you can still get parts for them. The Renesas motors are really not bad. They were just largely misunderstood and mismarketed. The Renesas engine has a lot of virtues that should be understood. And the fact of the matter is, I spent a good amount of money trying to get this 12A in here. It's so hard to get 12A parts these days. They haven't been manufactured in decades. And the rotor housings are unobtainium. I was able to snag a halfway decent pair, but it took me a while to get them, and it took me a good, yeah.
You said unobtainium. You know, there is a guy on Marketplace and on eBay who goes by that handle who sells rare Mazda parts and Nissan parts.
I was not aware.
His channel is called Unobtainium, and I thought maybe you knew, maybe you made that as a joke, but that could be also a term that people are using nowadays. But yeah, there's a guy who actually has a channel called that, and I have bought from him in the past.
If I ever come across a really nice clean set of 12A housings, I'd pick them up in a heartbeat, and I would stash them away for my next.
Look him up on eBay.
If I ever had to do a rebuild.
Yeah, this guy is on eBay, and he actually has RX-7 parts, 280Z parts, you name it.
If the motor blew today, it would have to be a different rotary engine.
And he 3D prints parts too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I need to do a couple of 3D printed parts. I need a new center console latch.
Now, he already has it done, but I don't know if he has a RX-7, but he's the type of guy that I've bumped into, have dealt business with in the past, and he's got a 3D printer. If he doesn't have it in stock, he'll make it.
I do know that the part exists. I have a little 3D printer myself. I can probably run one off.
Okay. Let's see, what else? Let's take a break here and let's take some photos. Let's take a break and we'll go from there. Grab the camera gear, and we're gonna do the same type of shot we did with the GR86 a couple weeks ago. Amy here is looking pretty good. We cleaned up all the cars today. We may have another photographer showing up shortly. He shoots film. He's old school like me, and he's learning the benefits of shooting with film. It's kind of hard to find film photography, but he may show up here in a little bit. We met him at the car meet. What does he drive?
His name's Alex Choi. He drives a EcoBoost Mustang. I got a great story about that guy. So,
okay.
The reason that I got to knowing him, I think I followed him on Instagram or saw him around someplace. So one day, he was out of the country on some kind of trip, and he was like, "Is there anybody who can go get my car from a mechanic and drop it off back in such and such garage on campus?"
Okay.
And I was like, "Yeah." Or actually, I think his original call was, "Is there anybody in C-Staff?" It was summer. He was a student, and I live here. So I said, yeah, what do you need? And so I actually went without, I think, ever having face-to-face met the guy, and I picked up his car from a mechanic shop, and I drove it on no gas.
You didn't know this guy?
What?
You didn't know him that well?
No, I must have followed him on Instagram somehow.
Wow, that's a lot of trust.
Yeah, I went and picked up his car. Well, then it got more interesting, because I had to have somebody take me to his car, right, so I could drive it back. Well, that guy is in his 350Z and starts to break down on the way back. And I'm running out of gas, and I can't figure out what the sound is of his blow-off valve, because I've never driven a turbo car. I'm like, what is that? What is making it?
You thought there was something wrong with it?
Yeah. Anyways, at the long end of the day, I'm finally able to get his Mustang back into the garage, safe and sound on campus. I think I filled it up with gas, and he paid me back. And that's how I met Alex Choi. He's a great individual.
Yeah, he seemed pretty cool and laid back. I mean, the fact he's shooting with an old Pentax Program Plus, 35mm with an Asahi lens. I knew his setup already. So man, it's a photographer after my own heart. He's going with the old bread and butter, old school with films. I mean, that's how I started. Dude, I'm old as dirt, right? But still, I went from there to digital, and he's hey, I got pictures of your Datsun from the last car meet, and he's flipped through his phone and says, "You shot that on film." Yeah, I just like the way it looks. I said, dude, that's pretty cool.
I actually started when I was a kid. I had a really nice Nikon film camera that my dad got off somebody.
Yeah.
And somebody stole it from him. And that's why I'm not a film photographer anymore.
Well, I still have those old Nikon film cameras and Pentax K1000s in storage. I'll probably talk about old school photography later in this channel. I'm going to get this thing set up and we'll talk more.
So something not a lot of people can tell from looking at it from this angle is that the front bumper here is wrapped and the rest of the car is painted. And that is because the car came with a paint job, and after I had fixed it up for the first time, we spent a whole summer, we had to put a new clutch in it. It had a ridiculous Titan twin disc racing clutch. It was completely shot, completely burned out, and we had to set the timing on. We got a great deal on the car because the guy thought that the engine was shot because his timing was fucked. And so we set the timing properly, or as close to properly as it was. There was more of that later, but in any case, I'm driving it around one night, and a deer right out in front of me. This is a loud car, people, very loud. And deer jumped right out in front of me, and it bent in this plastic bumper, and it bent right back up.
The deer might have been a fan. I mean, he heard you coming, so why did he run out in front of your car? Maybe he hates yellow. He was offended.
Everybody's jealous. What can I say? Some people have jealous attitudes. These little cracks in the turn signals are the only remaining visible mark from that. But the yellow paint split and cracked and flaked out, and so I had to get this redone. Becker Wraps in town did that, and they had a color of wrap that is just perfect. You
can't tell.
No.
I mean, I'm looking at it, I can't really tell at all. That's pretty damn close.
You'd have to be very picky to even
I can't tell, even on the lens.
So that ended up being okay. And then some of the other things I did to the car after I got it running was the radio. So I had a little cheap radio to begin with, and I decided that what I really needed, the problem is the radio sounds okay with the door speakers when you're sitting still, but you get going 120 miles an hour with the top down, and you can't hear it anymore. And the NA Miata had a rare factory option for headrest speakers, and so every set of stock Miata seats has little empty channels inside these headrests. You can't feel them, they're covered on the front. But there are empty spaces in these to insert speakers, and so I got some brand new, very nice speakers, and I put them in there.
Oh.
And I wired up. This is what these blue wires are here. Those are going to the seats under here, and those run to the radio. So now, as long as you have your head on the headrest, you can hear your music no matter what you're doing.
That's pretty cool.
Exactly. Something else I really like. This is just a little cheap thing I got on Amazon, but it's a pretty nice radio. So this radio looks stock enough as it is, right?
Yeah.
I don't like a screen in a car because I think it detracts from the look, especially of a classic car. Having a big screen, it's tacky. But they're also really handy if you need a map or something, or if you want to get your settings worked out. Man, they're so handy.
Oh, wow.
This, best of both worlds.
Gotcha.
And it has my race team logo, which pops up on the screen when it's booting up.
And it also doesn't interfere with the AC controls, the vents.
Yes, keep those out of the way. Not that the AC does anything. The blower runs at least. The blower will work, but...
Yeah, at least it doesn't block the vents.
Yes.
Perfect. See, that's the biggest problem with mine is I wanted the same feature, but I measured all those 6.5-inch Alpine flat screens that pop out, or they're angular. Yep. They hit the AC controller, or they cover the vents partly, so I ended up going with a single den.
I had to mount this just so it wouldn't happen, actually. See how it's kind of in here at an angle? That's actually just mounted with Gorilla Tape. I got sick of trying to screw the thing in properly, couldn't find it.
Well, it works, it works. It's not going to go anywhere.
No. It's fine.
I mean, you can always Velcro it if you have to.
Could do. But for now, that's just going to have to be. I need to mount an amplifier. It has a little bug right now where when the car is running, and only when it's running, and the volume is up all the way, it sounds like it's skipping. It'll start to skip. It's almost like a CD would be skipping, even if it's just playing an MP3 from a flash drive or from your phone or whatever.
So I have a spare amp at home. I literally took the amp from underneath my seat because it was hitting the rails. It was a monoblock 1200.1, peaks at 2400. It was too much amp for the subwoofer, so I went to an 800 watt amp, but it fits perfectly. It's literally like 4.5 by 5 inches.
I need a subwoofer and I need an amp. The radio is something I still want to upgrade on this car.
Yeah, the subwoofer, there's not much space here.
I don't need a crazy subwoofer. I just want to hear the look.
I know. I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to think how would best fit your car.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a really small box put behind one of these seats,
or behind a seat,
or underneath the seat, maybe a small little. They make them.
I do have a little bit of room behind and under the seats where it could go.
Yeah, I have a little 10-inch downfire box in my 280ZX, but it's discreet. It doesn't take a lot of space.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a way to put one in the. Well, see, if you put it in the trunk, nah, you wouldn't really. Well,
the trunk, because
maybe.
It's not really part of the inner cabin space. I don't.
Unless
think
it was
that's
ported,
be a good idea
maybe you port it somehow.
You wouldn't want to do that. I think the gas tank is back there.
Oh.
Or is it under the bottom of it? Anyways, there's stuff there. I think the fuel pump maybe, there's something in the way. You wouldn't want to do that.
Okay. Let's see, what else we got here?
Let's see. You want to go through the fuel filling routine?
Sure, let's do that. Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious. How do you actually, since it now has a rotary, you now have to change.
Yes. So
everything changes.
Fueling is expensive, but here's how it happens. Come out of here. Notice red toolbox. Never leave home without it.
Oh, there's your battery.
Yes.
The
Big,
relocation.
big battery.
Yeah.
We need to probably mount that a little bit better, but it's doing good for right now.
So you do have some truck space, okay.
Yeah, the trunk is actually pretty generous in this. My mom always said she had more space in her Miata than she did in her Jeep.
There's some truth to that. Yep.
But I just keep this little bag to try to keep the oil from getting on everything. You need one of these, which you can get from any AutoZone, which is a little funnel, and it's graduated, and it has a little start-stop, so you can fill it and then dump it. And then what you need is Idemitsu Rotary Racing Premix. Now on my last engine, I was not using this stuff. I was using blue 2-stroke premix oil from AutoZone. To be fair, I never had a problem with it. But my engine builder insists you need the Idemitsu. It's not terribly expensive. I would go ahead and get it. And I would typically run this down to about a quarter tank. It has a 12-gallon tank. So at that point, you need 8 gallons. And he has me mixing at 1 ounce to a gallon. Now that, most people would say is too much. That's more than is recommended on the bottle.
Yeah.
But at the engine builder, if James Belair says so, the guy knows what he's talking about. And I would do it. So I would fill that up to right here, 8 ounces. Dump that into the tank right there, and then I'd fill the gas, hoping that splashing the new gas in there is going to mix it a bit.
Help agitate it. Got it.
Yeah.
Mix it up.
And then I'll typically wobble the car a few times just for luck, and you're good to go. So it takes a minute to do, but that's why I always say a rotary engine is for an enthusiast. They're not good motors for... Oh, thank you. Yeah, and a rag is a good idea. These aren't good motors for daily drivers, for grandmas going to church and back, for taking you to the office. These are, you need to expect to put more effort into your engine, and you need to expect to get more out, because you will. They're not terribly fuel efficient, but if you're the kind of guy who really cares, a rotary engine could be for you.
Yeah, it depends. That's why it's good to have more than one vehicle.
Yes.
One for enthusiasts and another one just for daily drivers. I'm actually looking into that too. So
I daily drive a 2019 Ford Fiesta, and I could not be happier. The mixture of these two cars is what's perfect. That car makes this car perfect because it doesn't have to have air conditioning or heating.
Well, you got a convertible. You don't need
Exactly.
AC. Well, I mean, this is
If I had to have
Texas
only
though.
one
Wait a minute,
car-
this is Texas though.
If I had to have only one car, I'd really care about that stuff.
Yeah. Like today's perfect weather for going topless.
Yes, today is great. We should be out here in the Miata today. But there are also days where it's horribly rainy and very cold. I wouldn't want to be in the Miata.
So anyways, we're going to go ahead and get ready to start shooting at the downtown Bryan location at the Ronin. I'm going to try to shoot that again. And, oh, here's your buddy.
Oh, it's my boy Alex.
This is Alex and his Turbo Mustang. Turbo Boost Mustang. This thing's nice. Look at the camera on this thing. That is nice. So Alex here is a fellow photographer. So yeah, we're just talking about your ride and how he met.
I was
So
telling him about the time that I picked it up till it was at the mechanic's place. And I had to run it into town on like no gas, and then the guy who took me also broke down on the way.
so let's talk about a little bit about your ride. While we're at it, might as well talk about the Mustang. I mean, you've put a lot of work in this thing suspension-wise already.
Oh yeah, no, I got the PP1 suspension on here, the Performance Pack 1 suspension, so no Magna ride, but it does have the upgraded springs, upgraded coilovers, upgraded sway bars.
Hey, this is nice.
I've got some strut bracing in there as well. Mostly the suspension stuff, and then just intake, exhaust, blow-off valve, all the usual stuff kids do when they get their first car.
Well, I like the way it sits. It's almost like it's got it's got like a JDM-esque aesthetic to it, the way you did the camber and the fitting and everything else.
Oh yes, that's exactly what I was going for. I've always been a fan of Japanese cars, JDM cars, and and I thought it would be really cool to combine the lines, the very American lines of
Yeah,
Mustang
look at this. This
with
fitment's
the,
amazing.
stylings of a Japanese modified car.
I like the fitment.
Now, Alex, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
How did you get this built from factory?
This one?
Yes.
Well, you see, that happened because a guy backed into me in the parking lot. Never got who he was.
Despicable. One time somebody was drunk driving and he broke the headlight on my Ford Fiesta. He did end up replacing it.
Yeah. It always sucks when they don't stop for you.
It's nice. You said you had strut braces. Can we see those? Or
Yeah, of course.
show me what you got. Let's go from hood to front to rear. Let's see what you got. Yeah, we're going to do a little photo shoot in downtown Bryan at a restaurant called Ronin. Let's see if we catch it in time, we might be able to do some really cool shots.
Here's what I got under the hood. There's a Ford Performance strut racing intake, and if you were to go down here, you can see that I've got the blow-off valve right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I see it.
I'm actually planning on painting this valve cover red to match the car. I think it would
That'd be
look
pretty
really
cool.
good.
Yeah, I like it. I love the color.
Besides that, maybe plans for a big turbo down the line, but that's a couple years in.
Yeah, but it handles great, I'm sure.
It does.
Just the way the center of gravity, how low this thing is right now. I love the way it sits.
A lot of people think American cars can't handle, but I've taken this around places like Lime Creek, and this keeps up with stuff like BMW M340i's all days in the twisties.
Yeah, great car. I definitely want to do a more in-depth shoot with it, and maybe a little walk-around video. I mean, we could probably. I mean, we're at the 25-minute mark on the Miata already. Yeah. And now we're about to do the second part of the shoot, and then I was going to see if he wants to do a night shoot, that little night photography thing that I do tomorrow evening. The other Miata driver's coming here in a couple hours, so I think we're just going to go to the restaurant and see if we can shoot that in front of it, and then go from there if you want to follow us. Did you bring your camera?
Yeah.
Cool. And I'll give you some pointers, so if you want to shoot a little bit, you can shoot his car as well.
Yeah.
Or do you want to shoot it right now?
I'd like to take a couple shots right now.
All right. All right, cool. Just back your car up a little bit, and he's already set up.
Yeah.
All right, so we're
If you
here.
told me we were coming here, I would have brought a gun.
Welcome to downtown Bryan College Station. Alex is going to bring his Mustang around. I'm going to shoot the Rotary Miata here in front of the soon-to-be. I guess they're closing down. I don't know if they're still going to be in business. We'll find out. But this is a great opportunity to shoot some JDM classics in front of something so significant of a name. I've done this shoot before, but you know, I might as well squeeze in some more shots if they do close their doors.
Absolutely.
Man, these cars are looking great today. It's beautiful weather here in College Station. Sunny day. Alex is going to bring his Mustang around. We're going to do the same shoot for him, and then we're going to do some editing, and then decide if we're going to shoot tomorrow. Your call.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to you. All right. I think we have a good foreplay. I think. What time do you want to meet tomorrow?
Well, let's see. Usually I have a meeting at like 8 or 7:30, so. But honestly, I could probably squeeze out of that. I could wiggle out of that if I needed to.
I mean, sunset's going to be ideal, especially if this thing lights up. Or the night painting shoot.
So you want to do this again?
Well, in sunset, I want those lights to be lit up.
Okay.
Yeah, those, once they light up, they look pretty cool in the background. The sunset shoot here is really gorgeous.
You know what time sunset's supposed to be tomorrow?
We can Google it real quick. But I know that once it gets dark, the light painting technique is ideal. There's some great spots here in downtown Bryan to shoot that. All right, Alex is getting ready, so let's go ahead and get him set up. Okay, so that was a wrap. We had to do a little snatch and grab, taking these shots while we can. Alex and them are taking off. We're gonna be back at my place, do some editing real quick, and get this video out to you guys. So like and subscribe for this is part 1. We'll see you back for part 2. Listen to the sound of that, isn't that cool? So distinct, huh?